Today we're going to overview the features of the V500 Pro from VDIAGTOOL. This is a really complete automotive electrical testing system that includes the V500 Pro unit, which allows you to do voltage measurements, to apply voltage to systems. It even has a built-in oscilloscope as well. And aside from all these other features, including diode testing and circuit polarity tests and things, it also includes this tool here, which is an open circuit wire tracer. So if you have an open circuit, you can actually trace down the wire with a signal that is generated from this tool, and you pick it up on this tool to find where that open is. So it's a very complete automotive electrical testing system. The VDIAGTOOL system basically runs off of your automotive power from your battery. Battery is in the trunk on this car, so we're just going to use a power source by the fuse box, and we're going to find a chassis ground. All right, as you can see, the tool powers up and it gives you a whole bunch of options. The first feature we're going to cover is the probe here. So we're going to select OK, and basically this just measures the voltage at the end of the tool here. So we can use this to measure any voltages on any circuits. We can, for example, just go ahead and check these fuses real quick here. We see we've got 12 volts on that fuse, 12 volts on the other point on the fuse. So we can see that that fuse is good, for example. This tool can also measure resistance on a circuit as well as voltage drop, of course. We're going to go ahead and just demonstrate real quick on an actual resistor, but of course you could also measure for resistance on any wiring in the car. Just going to isolate our circuit, put our negative on one lead. This is a 100 ohm resistor. It should read pretty close. And as you can see, it reads approximately 100 ohms there. The next function is the multimeter, which basically turns the tool into a full function multimeter. As you can see, we can measure DC voltage, we can measure resistance like before. We also have a diode tester, we can measure frequencies, we can even measure amperage as well. Let's go ahead and go through a couple of these. All right, the multimeter is just basically a standard multimeter. We can see we got a 9-volt battery right there that we can measure. We can also measure diodes. We've got a good diode here. We're going to go against the polarity of the diode here. This should show no effect on the tool if it works, and we can see that the tool does not react. If we go into the polarity of the diode, and this diode is good, we should see it on the tool, and of course the diode should light. We see the diode lights, and we see our voltage shown on the tool. Okay, we're going to jump right to what most people are familiar with, one of the main uses of a tool like this, and that is the ability to test components and to bench test things. So we're going to go to component here. One of the things we can do is we can set limits, for example, on the amperage that it would potentially apply so we don't accidentally damage circuits, things like that. We can do a pulsed test, or we can do a test as long as we want. Let's go ahead and just test this light bulb right here and do the component test. Okay, we've got our bulb wired up. You could do this with a starter motor, a fan. You could do this on things on the car. We're just going to go ahead and push up, which applies power to our tip here. We can see that not only we can read the voltage here, but also we can read the amperage. This is a 1/4 amp bulb here. So we can see we've got various measurements available here. We can go to pulsed setting, and it will automatically pulse for us. Another thing that can be very useful, if we want to apply a ground to a circuit, we can just push down on the button and we'll apply a ground to complete a ground side switch circuit. Another really useful application, especially for automotive, is oftentimes you want to test a 5-volt circuit, such as a reference circuit to a sensor, and you do not want 12 volts at the tip because you're going to blow that circuit. We can select the 0 to 5 volts and we can apply voltage from 1 to 5 volts so that we don't damage sensitive circuits like a 5-volt reference or a computer circuit. Probably the most differentiating feature with the V500 Pro is the oscilloscope feature. I don't know of any other tools that offer this. This is going to be a single channel oscilloscope. We're going to go ahead and choose a transverse screen because it makes the screen wider. Okay, here we are just testing a simple pulse width modulated sensor here. And you can see this is very basic here. It's not fully adjustable or whatever. Really, you just want to look at the pattern, and I can determine this is a good pattern. Okay, we're just going to cover a few other features here. One of them is a really nice feature, the injector feature. This is going to be able to set different pulse widths of positive through the tool. And this is useful if you wanted to do a fuel injector test where maybe, for example, you thought you had a leaking injector and you want to test injectors against fuel pressure in the rail to verify that each injector is squirting the same amount of fuel. Very easy to do that. We can select our injector cycle here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give exactly a 250 millisecond pulse to what would be the fuel injector so that we could activate that fuel injector an exact amount of time like that. And that would, of course, decrease the fuel pressure in the rail if it's primed. We would then move to the next injector, give that injector exactly 250 milliseconds of pulse. And of course, it should drop that fuel pressure in the rail exactly the same if that injector is working identically. We can change the speed of our pulses, and this is a very useful way to test for fuel injection. Okay, our final demonstration we're going to do of the tool is going to be with the signal tracer. So for the signal tracer, we need to come to our on-off switch down here. We notice our on-off switch has 3 positions. We've got the tool on right now. We've got the off position. Pushing down activates the signal tracker. And what the signal tracker will do is it will put a pulsed radio frequency signal down this wire. I can connect this wire to any circuit on the car if I believe I've got an open circuit that I want to trace. And then we can use this tracker tool here to pick up that signal. And then when we come to the end of the circuit, you see our signal disappears. So we know there's an open circuit somewhere around that area in our wire harness. Finally, we're going to show some of the customizable features of the tool here. We see we've got these nice bright headlamps on. You can go into the tool and you can select those on or off if you want. You can change the display mode to a light background or a dark background. It really helps with glare and things like that. You can also do software updates that come available from time to time as well. If you're having any issues with the tool, you can go to the self-test and you can test that it reads the various key functions and that the LED light works. All right, that's a summary of the V500 Pro from VDIAGTOOL Complete Automotive Circuit Testing Kit, including, of course, the signal tracker for your open circuits and the amazing oscilloscope feature. Very unique features for a tool like this.